Hello everybody and welcome to another amazing video of DIY investing. In the last bull run, I went from living in my grandma's basement to making multi-seven figures in just 2 years. This is something that I truly believe that anybody can do with the right investments, with the correct positioning in the market, and a true bull run to follow off of. For today's video, I'm going to be breaking down why this next cycle is going to be so much bigger than any of the other ones in comparison, how by being positioned early, we can actually make over 7 figures inside of our personal portfolios. I'm going to also break down some of the thoughts and perspectives that helped me go from in my grandma's basement to making multi-seven figures in just a few years. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and with that being said, let's jump right into this amazing video today. Alrighty guys, here we are to start off today's video, and this is going to be a very important one if you're looking to make the most money possible over the course of an entire bull run. I was able to do very well in the last cycle, and it wasn't necessarily because I knew a lot more than the average person. It wasn't really that I was, super technical in a lot of different ways, that I had some superior advantage. The truth of the matter was I understood market cycles, I positioned myself early in the cycle, and then I simply held the entirety of the bull run as things took off. And the truth of the matter is I actually took a lot more profits had I have actually held genuinely everything that I bought from the beginning just to the cycle top. I would have made over 8 figures. I bought Solana at 60 cents. I bought Phantom when it was worth almost nothing at like $50 million in total market cap. I bought a bunch of Terra Luna when it was worth 32 cents. And had I held every single one of those, I would have been at multi-8 figures. So unfortunately, I had to settle with multi-7 figures, which, sucks. Oh my gosh, how dare I lose all that money, right? The truth of the matter is, I watched myself do this, and I watched myself fumble a multi-8 figure bag. Yeah, I got out with a lot of profit. I'm more than grateful for all of it too, don't get me wrong. But the truth is, I'm learning from my mistakes. Every single bull run, I'm constantly learning from those mistakes. And my goal is always to see you guys that watch this channel make the most profit possible. All you guys are doing when you're watching this channel is seeing what I've learned from, seeing things from my perspective, and me more or less giving you guys different ideas that maybe you haven't considered before. When we're looking at each and every cycle, there is an obvious pattern that is played out, and the truth of the matter is, if you're positioned before that breakout of the all-time high, if you're in solid cryptos, good projects that are going to rise fundamentally, you are going to see some of the biggest gains and probably the biggest returns you've ever seen in your life, probably bigger returns than anybody you know has seen in their lives. I've seen this for myself. I have a number of different altcoins that I put maybe $300 to $500 in, $1,000 max. And some of those went into over 100x. It was easy for me to hold those positions because the way I looked at it in my head was, I put $500 in there. I'm just going to see what it turns into. It's not really that big of a loss for me. And I had multiple different altcoins that made over 6 figures off of a $500 to $1,000 investment. And so anybody can do that. A lot of you guys that watch this channel have that much invested. And it only takes one solid altcoin to really transform your lives. I'm talking about making multi-7 figures and potentially 8 figures into this next cycle. But a lot of people, they might be fine with 5 or 6 figures. It's not like they have to have some giant number. The truth of the matter is this, guys. You're only going to make as much as you put into the cycle. So if you're sitting here not doing any research, you're really not caring a whole lot, you're just kind of jumping from coin to coin based off of what 50 different influencers have to say, chances are you're probably not going to do very well. And then the second big thing is being able to hold the entirety of the cycle. These are some of the biggest, most important details for making profit. And it comes, there's a 7-figure plan. If you're going to be a 7-figure investor into crypto, I think that the majority of that wealth comes from just being able to hold, being able to stomach the ups and the downs. When you're up 20x in profit on an altcoin, not taking profits and holding it another 100x. I can't tell you guys how hard that is. And I know from my own personal experience, because I took profit on so many different altcoins. I could have just held my Solana investment, and off of just one investment into Solana, I would have been a 7-figure multimillionaire. So we're just looking at, some of the same rules that I've learned from in the cycle, and I'm trying to teach them back to you guys so that you can ultimately do the same things I did and make that same profit. Now, at the end of the day, guys, we have an obvious pattern that has played out each and every one of our bull cycles. And we can go all the way back to the beginning of this, where we have parabolic rallies, big market crashes, and then every single time we start a new cycle, the all-time high of the prior one gets massively dwarfed in comparison. Same thing happened here. massively dwarfed. Same thing happened here, massively dwarfed. And now, guys, in my opinion, we are going to see the same thing happen again. Now, from beginning to end of the last cycle, from peak low to peak high, we got a 20x return. So every single cycle has diminished in ROI, but I think this cycle could be much bigger in comparison because we don't have a global pandemic, and this is probably going to be the cycle where institutional adoption actually takes place. I think that this will be the retail cycle and the institutional cycle all in one, and we are going to be looking at an internet bubble-esque type of bull run. We've always talked about this. When are we going to see the internet bubble type of parabolic rally like tech stocks had in the early 2000s? When are we going to see something like that? And in my opinion, the next cycle will be that move coming. I think that now is the most important time than ever before to be positioned early, have good investments, research into what are going to provide good narratives to invest in long term, and be ready to hold the length of the cycle, regardless of where you have bought so far and regardless of, maybe you've missed out on buying a lot of stuff down in here. If we look at every cycle and we analyze where the Bitcoin halving is, the Bitcoin halving was here, Bitcoin halving was here, and now our Bitcoin halving is coming up, over in here somewhere. So every single time we have one of these Bitcoin halvings, the price explodes. Had you have bought at any point before that Bitcoin halving, you would have been totally cool with that. Any point before that Bitcoin halving to begin the cycle, you would have been totally cool with, purchasing at that price because we know what happened after the halving, right? So once again, in the same rule of thumb, we're still below the halving. We still haven't had our Bitcoin halving yet. So I'm willing to bet that even if you FOMO buy at the exact high right here, even if you bought the exact high when we come up to 50K, and probably get a correction, even if you buy the exact local top of that move, I think that you will still be very thankful with the fact that you did that. Looking back come 2024, 2025, when we're taking profits and we see the market is worth over $100,000 per Bitcoin, this all-time high of 69,500 looks exactly like how all of these other cycles do, just dwarfed in comparison with the new run. We will see another one of these. And I think that if we only saw a 20x return, just like what we saw inside of this first cycle, just like what we saw in the last cycle, keep in mind that even though we would be performing to the same extent of cycle 3, having a 20x increase from where our cycle low is, we're going to be looking at like $300,000 per Bitcoin. So even if we only do a 20x, which is the same ROI from the last cycle to the cycle top, if we do the same ROI, this will be already a much bigger cycle in comparison. Because Bitcoin is sitting at $35,000. If this thing's about to increase by that much, by another 10x in value, we're literally going to be looking at like 10 to 15 trillion dollars plus inside of the total market cap. So we got to understand here, guys, that regardless of where we're at right now in the short time frames, every single one of our bull cycles, had you have bought below the prior all-time high and before the Bitcoin halving, you would have been just perfectly fine and peachy going into that next bull cycle. And that's what I'm trying to get through you guys' heads. Don't worry about the short-term price action. We're still in the beginning year of this bull run. We're just about to finish the first year. We're still early. There's still plenty more upside potential. A lot of altcoins are sitting at the same levels that they've been at. Some of them are sitting at the range lows. Some of them are sitting over here in kind of like the middle point of their range. And all of them are looking at significantly more upside potential going into this bull run. So, guys, I'm not very smart. I dropped out of high school. I didn't even have a driver's license until I was 21, didn't have a car till I was 23, lived in my grandma's basement for like 4 years, and I really just did a lot of drugs and had no real ambition, no real goals in life, didn't know what I was doing. And because of crypto, I was able to go from being a worthless turd to somebody that provides value, and most importantly, not necessarily somebody that provides value, but somebody that has meaning in their life. And crypto brought me meaning. It gave me something to look forward to every single day. When I make these videos, when I talk about this stuff, it makes me passionate because I know that at the end of the day, it's the people that are watching this channel that are going to be able to do the same thing. Many of you guys have never really hit it big in a cycle, and most people won't, but the people that do are really, going to look forward to something very special. And that's what I find passion in making these videos, is knowing that at the end of the day, come end of year 2025, all the people watching this channel are going to be up in a lot of profit. And I believe that now is the most opportune time than ever before to be invested early and have a sound plan when going into this next bull run. If I can do it, if I can be pretty much the lowest scum of society and I can do all of these things, imagine what you guys can do. Imagine what you guys that actually graduated high school can do. Imagine what you guys can do that actually went to college, that actually can solve fractions and do basic math problems. Like, I can't do those things. And the way I look at it is, man, I'd be worth so much more had I had some more of those skills that I could have learned, by studying harder in school or by doing these sort of things. But at the end of the day, you get what you take. I'm thankful for where I'm at right now. And if I can do it, I want you guys to understand that you can do it and do it even more than me. It's not like I'm special. It's just that I dedicated my time and focus to these crypto cycles. And we see what happens with these crypto cycles. They're nothing like we have ever seen before. So assuming we're about to get another one of these, do you feel like you're early or do you feel like you're late? Because really you should be feeling early, regardless if you didn't buy the cycle low, regardless if you're buying local tops and you're still at a loss in certain altcoins. Come a couple years from now, you guys are going to be up a lot and you will be thankful that you held. Now looking into the total market cap, I want to talk about a few different charts before we wrap up today's video. Now in the total market cap, guys, we are seeing a little bit of a pullback, but we got to keep in mind that this is happening right after we kind of flipped this level. So I'm actually going to come down here. We're going to go to a 3-day time frame. So this resistance level, we just flipped it, right? We were looking at the range highs. We've been working on a breakout of the range highs. We finally flipped those, and we retested them. This candle right here. That was the breakout. Now we've made another new high, and we've finally broken out of this resistance here, and we're currently retesting that as support. I think that most likely this ends up holding as support before we continue and make a new leg higher. I don't see why this impulse is done by any means. To me, when we're looking at the total market cap, this is a great chart to be watching because it obeys level to level in a much more symmetrical way comparing it to like BTC against the dollar. So to seeing us having this pullback, it's not surprising because it's just coming back down to retest this resistance level as new support. So if this is about to go higher, the rest of the market's also about to do the same thing. And the thing I want you guys to remember is I still think that even if you're buying right at this exact price point, if we're looking at this market breaking out and going all the way up to the top of this lower high at 50K, we're going to see a ton more profit coming into these altcoins. Really, the beginning of the move just happened. We haven't even had the majority of it yet. So I don't think that you're, far behind. We've just barely started breaking out. We just made the first higher high of the new bull trend. Even if you end up watching this thing go all the way up to 48,000 and then make a correction, you're still going to be early because I think that as long as you're buying in before that Bitcoin halving, you're going to be early. Even shortly after the Bitcoin halving has been a relatively early point in each and every one of these bull cycles. So the thing is having perspective, understanding there's still plenty of time left to accumulate. Don't beat yourself up. Don't worry so much about the long term because I can tell you guys right now, as somebody who's been through the cycles, this is now my third bull run, you are positioned just perfectly to be able to capture the bulk of this move. You don't have to buy the peak low. You don't have to sell the peak high. Once the mania sets in, from the breakout of the all-time high of the last cycle, that's where all of the real money comes in. And so if we're talking about a 20x for Bitcoin from the range lows, which would only be the same size as the last cycle, let's talk about where we could potentially see the price. We would be looking at a significantly higher market cap. 15 trillion would be a 20x from our cycle low, and I think that is a doable expectation. 15 trillion would put Bitcoin at about 300K per Bitcoin, like I stated. And if we have a true institutional cycle where we have a true internet bubble, like a multi-year cycle top type of bull run, then at that point I really won't be surprised to see this thing going up to 250 to 300K per Bitcoin, because I've always stated that I believe that there would be one cycle that would be bigger than all the others, and that would kind of be like the ending of the true cycles, right? Where if we look back in the early 2000s, we had the internet bubble. Tech stocks went crazy, pets.com, all of these different, Amazon, all these different tech stocks were going insane. And that was the peak of the bull run, right? They'd been uptrending for years and years, over a decade, but then that peak ended over the course of just one short cycle. And I think that the same thing's going to happen with crypto. We can't just expect that these things are going to infinitely make 4-year cycles and just keep repeating the same thing. Eventually that's going to end. And I think that could be what happens in this next bull run. So assuming that this could be the true cycle top, or maybe it's like the internet bubble. Maybe this is going to be the biggest cycle for adoption that we're ever going to see in comparison. And if that's the case, I can't tell you guys how early we still are. And regardless if you didn't buy down in here, you're still early when we're talking about potentially 10 to 15 trillion dollars coming into the total market cap. You're going to make a lot of money. If we're looking at something being worth 1.35 trillion dollars and it's about to do 20 or another 10x in value, think about how much money is going to be in crypto as a whole. We were looking at the last cycle, seeing cryptos, going all the way to basically like 50 in total market cap, all having at least $1 billion in them. So if we're looking at this next cycle, you're probably looking at 100 to 120 25 to 150, all of those in total market cap maybe having at least $1 billion in them. So many altcoins are sitting at 50 million, 100 million, sub 500 million, the vast majority of them. So can you imagine if any of those go up to $10 billion in market cap, $5 billion in market cap? You're still making a ton of money in the process. And that's the thing we need to remember here, guys. This is a long-term game. We are still very much early to the grand scheme of things. And I still firmly believe that anybody that's positioning themselves now, regardless of this recent breakout, regardless of the highs and lows over the rest of this year, you're going to set yourselves up to make a lot of profit in the process. What we're already seeing here inside of the conventional markets is a multi-year breakdown. The DXY just broke down from this little triangle that we were forming here, this little descending triangle, I should say, and we're now breaking down from that. Like I stated, guys, this entire move is a lower high before we go to another lower low. The dollar completed a it's actually over a decade-long cycle top. If we're looking at where the beginning of this impulse started, the dollar's been impulsing since the 2008 financial crisis. This was wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, wave 4, and then this was wave 5 that we just saw. So if we're looking at a not multi-year, but over a decade-long cycle top, and we're looking at this coming all the way back down to support, this could be going all the way down to 90 before this thing has any sort of real support level to be watching for. And if that's the case, you got to expect that crypto is going to go flying. This will be the first time in Bitcoin's history where the dollar is going to be in a downtrend while Bitcoin's around, right? Because Bitcoin spawned right here. That was when it basically got added to trading, was here and at the beginning of 2009. So when we're looking at this, as Bitcoin has been around, it has only known the dollar impulsing. The dollar's always been going up as Bitcoin's been around. So assuming that the dollar is at a decade-long cycle top, and we're about to be starting another one of these, what's to say this isn't the cycle where Bitcoin actually goes mainstream? I think it really could be. So that's why I'm saying, guys, being positioned inside of this cycle, in my opinion, is the most important one in all of Bitcoin's history, because we're starting to see the early cracks of the dollar. Everybody's shifting from the dollar. They've already been doing that. You have China, Russia, and the Middle East dropping the dollar, using the petrodollar for their new oil trade. You've got all of our allies starting to leave, going into this new alliance with the Middle East and the East in general. So, I mean, there's nothing really here to support the dollar anymore. The last thing that the dollar had backing it was the oil trade. And Biden shut down pipelines. Everybody's just trying to shut out and phase out oil. Everybody's shutting down the oil pipelines and phasing it out entirely. And so there's really nothing backing the dollar anymore. Why would you assume that it's not just going to crumble here when we're looking at a multi-year cycle top, over a decade that we've been uptrending? I think Bitcoin is going to benefit mightily from this reversal happening, because it ultimately shows a shift is taking place in the world. No longer is the days of the supremacy in the dollar here. The days of the supremacy, in my opinion, peaked at the end of the year 2022, when we saw treasury yields going up crazy, bond yields, all of these things were going insane. That was the peak of the dollar. I believe that this is about to crumble, and this is when we're going to see the shift happen, moving from the dollar, fiat currencies, into crypto. And we can see that that's the case in every one of these charts. This is the USDT dominance, so Tether's dominance, and we can see that this has been growing, building off of this trend line. Once 2022 came in here, we had the bear market, the USDT price peaked all the way up here at almost 10% dominance. And then for the last few months, we've been coiling inside of this symmetrical triangle. We finally broke down from that triangle. And in my opinion, this signals all of the money that's been sitting inside of USDT and other stable coins is now going to be leaving as this ultimately finds its way back down to this main trend line. So if we're looking at if we're looking at stable coins topping, Tether's topping, starting a descent all the way back down to this main trend line, every time USDT hits this level, it always comes at the peak of a bull cycle. So if this comes all the way back down and tags this level, we're either going to be looking at a big topping point for Bitcoin before it has a pullback, and it might do something like this before coming back down, and then this might be our true peak. It might take a couple different reactions off of this before Bitcoin and the rest of the market actually tops. But this thing lines up really nicely with the end of 2025 kind of being where we end up coming back down to this trend line, which if I move it over here a little bit, the end of 2025 is going to be here. So we're going to be watching for something to be trickling all the way back down, coming into the time of 2025. My thought is this: if we see this thing kind of come back down and rally all the way down to this trend line before the end of the year 2025, In my opinion, all we're going to be experiencing is some type of pullback like kind of what we saw here at 65K, where the market rallied to 65K, we saw this big pullback, and then we went for one more new high after that. In my opinion, that could be where we see a bounce off of this trend line. When the USDT index comes and hits this trend line, that's when it's time to be taking profits on crypto, even if it's just some short-term profits before we make a new high. Because if that's the case, we would expect this to bounce. This would probably come back down and retest this trend line once again in kind of a similar way that it did right here before the true bear market set in 2022. We're looking at this as a topping point. If we're looking at the USDT topping, we're looking at all of this money circulating itself back into the crypto market. This is what happens at the end of a cycle. We just began the new bull run. And so to see us breaking down now gives Bitcoin confirmation, now gives altcoins confirmation, and the rest of the cycle as a whole. So anyways, guys, this is the video I had for you. Wanted to break it down, wanted to give you guys some thoughts and perspective to consider. At the end of the day, guys, I am not a genius. I'm just somebody who understands some basic technicals with market cycles, and to me, that's how I've made all of my money. You know, I didn't start from anything. I had no money to begin these cycles, and I was able to make 7 figures, multi-7 figures. I was able to get my mom out of debt, pay off her house, do all of these really cool things, and you know, at the end of the day, I want to see you guys do that too, and that's why I make these videos. I know what's going to happen for me. I've already done all of this stuff. I've been in crypto since 2016. I've already been able to make a lot of success for myself. So going into this cycle, my goal is just to see you guys do the same thing. And these videos, as I've been uploading 7 days a week, are meant to inform you guys, meant to keep you guys on top of the market so that you can ultimately do the same thing. At the end of the day, I can make all of the money in the world, but I can't tell you how much happier it makes me whenever I have one of you guys DM me, hit me up on email, whatever it is, and then you guys tell me how you're able to make so and so amount of profit, you're able to do this and this because of following my videos. That to me makes me happier than anything else in the world. So I'm going to continue to make these videos. I'm going to continue to pump out the content 7 days a week so that you guys are informed and we can look to make the most money possible in the course of this bull cycle. If you did find value, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these videos. If you guys want to see how I'm investing, how I'm positioning myself in this cycle, whether it's buying NFTs, altcoins, Bitcoin trades, whether it's something else in DeFi, or maybe even outside of crypto, going into uranium, going into gold, silver, you know, other sectors. There's a lot of profit to be made in other markets, and you guys are always going to be able to see what I'm doing. It's a one-time payment, lifetime access, so as long as you're in, you'll always be in, and you'll always get to see what I'm doing with my portfolio, regardless of which market it is I'm trading. Links are in the description to go ahead and sign up. Thank you guys so much for the support, and with that being said, I will catch you in the next one. As always, peace out.